Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to look at A Year Passes Like Nothing with the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers. This is actually number 3 of the Freak Brothers comic book, all Gilbert Shelton. This is before Gilbert Shelton employed a handful of assistants. You know, for the most part, Paul Mavridis, but every now and then it'd have other people help out. And this is a thinner issue. The first 2 issues were 52 pages, pretty chock full of stuff. This is just a nice, leisurely, typical 32 pages. And it's great stuff. Gilbert Shelton's definitely coming into his own. He's becoming the masterful cartoonist and that we all know and love. The cover here is a parody of that Manet painting. What is it called? I don't know what it's called. But it's been parodied and homaged so many times before. So Gilbert Shelton wanted to take a crack at it. We see all the Freak Brothers imitating that painting. And this kind of shows how Fat Freddy's cat is, how popular he is. He gets this huge inset on the cover because he was quite a draw. A lot of people liked Fat Freddy's cat. Inside front cover is a nice Fat Freddy's cat strip. Just some zany slapstick. Freddy's down in the mouth, so Fat Freddy's cat does this crazy nutty dance just to cheer him up. The first story in this issue is The Adventures of Freewheelin' Franklin. And this was made just for the comic. Like we've talked about before, most of these comics are the one-page reprints from the hippie underground newspapers that he would just reprint in these comics. But then he would do these new stories. And Franklin's walking down the street one day, and he sees an ex-girlfriend from 8 years ago. And she's huge now. And she also has a little kid who's the spinning image of Franklin. So Franklin's like, oh, zoinks, I'm getting out of here. I don't want her to see me. And it seems like no matter where he goes, she's in a dogged pursuit of him. He turns down in an alleyway, and it's a dead end. And she's still on his heels. And she approaches him, comes right up to him and says, "Be prepared to meet Jesus, your maker, my friend, because the end of the world is coming." So she doesn't even recognize Franklin. She's just a crazy Jesus freak now. And so he gets out of it. I like this last panel where he's doing that little, the dainty exit. It's a good one. So now we're getting into the reprints from the newspapers. I almost have a feeling that Gilbert Shelton finally realized that, hey, I'm going to put out these comics every year, reprinting these strips. I should make the lettering big enough, because the lettering is totally readable in this one. In the first 2 issues, sometimes he'd be cramming so much into the giant, newspaper size, not realizing that, hey, I'm going to have to reprint this all shrunken down, and the word balloons are going to be really hard to read. So I think he's figured it out. He's got the balance. Every strip now has a Fat Freddy's cat at the bottom. So it's definitely getting standardized, the format. But man, his art is just getting tight. It's just really some fine, tight cartooning. There's definitely some topical ones in this. They talk about in the early 70s, the meat prices were getting out of hand. This is a joke about that. How Freddy just goes out into the countryside and runs over some cows and takes them home because they can't afford steak. I think there's one I wanted to bring up. Oh yeah, this one, they go to the supermarket and it was the age of boycotting things. Like, Cesar Chavez, he called for a lettuce boycott because the produce companies weren't paying their workers enough. Also grapes, that was a big one. But apparently a lot of things you weren't supposed to buy if you were, politically correct. And I mean that in the old sense of the word. Everyone has a beautiful new logo. It's almost like he's showing off how good he is at cartooning. This is making fun of the oil crisis, the gasoline famine, as he calls it. Fat Freddy's cat gets a solo page here. I kind of like this one. Phineas gets a package from Texas. His mom's finally sent him all of his old comic books. Meanwhile, Fat Freddy's cat is kind of bemoaning the fact that Freddy gassed all of the roaches. He kind of misses them, even though they were his enemy. Now he has no one to fight. When Phineas opens his box of comics, he's like, oh no. Like, he's got all these great old DC comics, and they're just, like, ruined. It looks like this giant roach was in there just nibbling on him the whole trip. A Texas cockroach. Fat Freddy's cat goes to attack him, and he's this just huge, strong roach. Grabs him by the tail and flips him. And Fat Freddy's cat thinks, well, thank God there's only one of them. He can't reproduce. And then this last panel, but shortly thereafter, we see this mouse kicking out his wife because she's got a baby with antenna. And she's crying. So I think we're going to see more of the Texas roach, if I remember correctly. So more zany antics are going on here. I know I've talked about this before, but I really hope next issue they kick in with the longer stories. Because that's really when Gilbert Shelton shines. These one-page gags, I know a lot of people like these, but I'm not a stoner. I was never a hippie. They're kind of clever, kind of funny, but not my cup of tea. This is an interesting one. It's just called Government Spies. And I think Gilbert Shelton just wrote these song lyrics and wanted to illustrate them. Government spies are everywhere, in your home and in your hair, lurking in their secret lair, counting dollars. Really nice cartooning in this too. So here we have, I assume, another new strip, just because it has big panels. It was made for comic books. I Led 9 Lives, starring Fat Freddy's cat. And he's narrating the story about, he's basically like, we're supposed to believe that he's this James Bond type character who works for the government. And he gets called in by his chief, and he tells him that these ne'er-do-wells are poisoning the water supply. And the stuff that they're putting in the water supply turns you queer. The drug is called he. I like Fat Freddy's cat says, what does it do to ladies? Turns them queer too. So he lands in this nudist colony, which he assumes is a front for this evil operation. And he kills everyone. Turns out he was at the wrong address. So it wasn't a front, it was just a nudist colony. He murders them all. He finds the right place. And we see this general here who's like this flaming general. And tells his soldiers to execute Fat Freddy's cat. But he outguns them all and just shoots everyone. When he gets back to the chief, I guess he failed. He said, sorry, chief, they already dumped all the poison in the water, the he. And he realizes that his chief is already drinking his morning coffee with water in it because he has his pinky upturned when he's drinking. And he goes, hee hee hee. So Fat Freddy's cat blows him away. It was his patriotic duty. And then he shoots himself in the head. Kind of fun. The fabulous Furry Freak Brothers go busking in the streets for change. This one's interesting. It's a parody of S. Clay Wilson, the Checker Demon. But this is a nice polka dot demon gets the royal shaft by F. Cluck Wolverton. So, the Checker Demon, he basically cleans up his act because the Supreme Court was cracking down on obscenity at the time. We see actually a couple strips that mention this news story. It's kind of pertinent because that same ruling is pretty much what killed the undergrounds, where community standards could judge or rule what was for sale in their communities. So they shut down a lot of head shops, and the head shops were the main distribution points for undergrounds. So all in 73. So he didn't know this was going to happen then, though, Gilbert Shelton, but he obviously doesn't like it. And there's 2 strips that mention it in a negative light. So the demon sells his motorcycle, gets a nice little scooter. He goes to this fashionable clothing shop and gets really hip. And then he meets Jesus Christ, who tells him he says, "Up yours, buddy," and flies off. It doesn't really make sense. This one's kind of interesting because the Freak Brothers are really encouraging people to register and vote. And Oat Willie makes a guest appearance, Gilbert Shelton's other character, who was running for president at the time, I believe. More zany antics. And I wish I could draw like this guy. The lettering is flawless. We have a Christmas episode. Yeah, the title is kind of apropos. A year passes like nothing, and they do follow a year, these reprints. I assume at this time that they definitely weren't weekly. I can't even imagine him cranking out something this ornate in 1 week. So I don't know, maybe they appear every twice a month or something. Here's a nicely drawn ad for Ripoff Press. It's like getting a bonus half page. It's pretty nice. One last strip on the inside back cover. And then on the back cover, we have, just like last issue, but this one's Fat Freddy giving a little, saying something. This is another poster for sale. And it's kind of nice that, we get a free back cover, basically. This is an ad for a poster, but essentially it's a nice little back cover of Fat Freddy. Trying to say speed kills and failing. So there you have it. A year passes like nothing with the fabulous Furry Freak Brothers from 1973. Hope you enjoyed it. I sure did. And I hope to see you here next time at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.